Lobby, they can do whatever they like and they'll still be okay. But Waze and Effexy sort of on that cusp going into this game. So being below Storm Surge here is really not ideal whatsoever. And 175 below is not a small number either, so this is why they're just getting very, very aggressive. Unfortunately, they don't have the heals to try and maintain their health. And the more that the Storm Surge damage ticks away at them, the more troubles they're going to have at actually finding that damage. Waze is going to have a pizza to keep himself alive for a little bit. Nicely done from Effexy to actually get a little bit of damage there, but it's not going to be enough to put them above. Only 6 below now for Waze. These are the moments that could end up qualifying you to the major finals or force you into the last chance qualifier. Now above the Storm Surge threshold, so Waze is okay, but at what cost? He's got no heals left.
It's almost like kicking the hornet's nest, though, when you're getting those surge tags onto a duo like Shark and Teeny. They're still sitting in a position where they could potentially look to just end the run here for Waze. And as a solo, the lobby might also just be able to really pick them off along the way here. But with that Storm Surge just continuing to crash away at his HP, 204 below now. He doesn't have any heals, but the more desperate you are, the more obvious it becomes. He tries to immediately jump to the box here, but gets clipped along the way. Cringe and Twy not even gonna allow him. They're just gonna realize that there is a body loot llama about to appear above them for a little bit of extra mats, but instead Waze separate himself just a little bit. But one more tick will do it. Somebody's gonna find all those mats eventually.
That's tough. That's really tough. That's the worst way to go down in the last game. You want to give yourself at least a chance, you know? They were outside of the threshold, only just. They were on the cusp, but it's going to be a horrific end for them, unfortunately. They're going to have to go through the last chance qualifier. It's now Panzer and Yapko just inside of that threshold themselves. They're going to make the most of this game. They're going to want to make the most of this game. Two very experienced players, two players that know how to operate when it comes to the major finals, so they want to make it there. It's 105 points right now, puts them in a solid position. His height is just a complete and utter mess. There's 2 or 3 teams up there right now. It's Artist and his teammate that looks as though they're the ones that are going to be taking control of it so far. Things are going to change so much, Taco. Things can change so much in Fortnite. Things can change so much in the final game of Heats. You never know what's going to happen.
I know for sure that Artist and Hero, they're not going to be able to hold onto this hyper much longer if they don't get a refresh of some sort. So Artist is going to opt to drop down, see what kind of fight he can actually build here. But Pink, Sato, frontside low. Just quiet as can be, but they're going to need to find a refresh themselves too. 5 eliminations, though. They have definitely been getting active in this last lobby, and we know for a fact, Minnie, that they need this win more than anyone, or as much as teams outside of that first 2 pages of the leaderboard were given. And this might just be their moment, but with Shark Teeny now looking to overtake height. Shark, though, loses a huge chunk of his HP. That's going to force Teeny to actually drop down. Wants to get a little bit more up close and personal, but no, instead goes right back up. to provide a little bit of backup measures for Shark just in case. But Panzer, Yapko, there still is no time to relax. They have an uphill battle still ahead of them, even though every single bit of placement that they continue to climb here, 119 points, they still want to finish strong. They've had a really rough day today, Mini, but closing things out in this lobby and securing their spot in the Major 1 Finals, that's all they're after.
Yeah, they're trying to squeeze out as much as possible. They're being squeezed out of the zone right there as Yapko gets sent miles into the storm, manages to make his way back in, but he has no HP, no health, no ability to heal back up there for the white HP. Cringe and Volker, you can see on the bottom of the screen, they're looking pretty strong as well on these exact same amount of points as Panzer and Yapko. So two teams in a very, very similar situation. Not ideal for either of them, but they're trying to squeeze out as many points as they possibly can. Panzer now almost as solo as Yapko is down to such low HP. It's going to be dicey for them in the middle. Yapko takes some shots, takes down Jeezy, and that is now down to a solo for Yapko to solo clutch.
It's crazy to see some of these players just getting sent back into the storm from the overdrive grenades, but Pink still left kicking. Ultimate Low has just started to collapse on itself non-stop, and it doesn't help when you got Shark and Teeny overhead. But Yapko with the elimination onto Midro. He secured so many points along the way. 143 is where they'll fall, but it might have just been enough. Pink and Sato, only Pink remains. Pink, he's got to try and close things up, but 103 and he's fallen. Volko and Cringe, they knew that they needed a big match, and they might have just been able to deliver here, Mini Miner. Kiri and Paty, just last couple of remnants here on the ultimate low side of zone. And Kiri just gonna keep trying to press through, but knowing full well that there's still a handful of other players left to contend with. It's Truly, and then of course the duo of Shark and Teeny, and now Truly just waiting. It's only moments, I think, before he's eventually forced to clash. As Teeny, it's actually only Teeny. We have a full lobby of solos, I just assumed. It's crazy to think about, but Kiri's still holding things together here on the low ground. 148 points, so that's definitely within the threshold. Twag, every single one of these teams, Mini, looking awfully secure.
Yeah, looking good for consistency or victory. Why not do it in style here in the final game of Heat 1? Twek still maintaining a high ground, trying to hold on to as much of that as possible. Still got the materials to do so. Kiri takes down Teeny down on the low ground as well. That's his 5th elimination of the game. Who's going to take the win, though, and go into the Major 1 Finals in style? Kiri takes the shot and secures it right there at the end to make their way into the Major 1 Finals.
It was definitely a bit of demolition derby, it felt like, in the underbelly of the low ground, Mini Miner. But at the end of the day, Kiri and Paty have managed to get the job done. Finding a Victor Royale is better late than never, and they've got to be feeling great knowing that their position is 100% confirmed for the Major 1 Finals. It's been a phenomenal day of these 5 matches. Can't say thank you guys enough, but now we've got to get back to the desk.
Thank you so much, my friends. An amazing job casting it up as always. And what a finish for Kiri and Paty. I mean, that is truly one of the better feelings in Fortnite when you're able to win the final game of the Heat to make it in, especially when you were sitting just outside qualification range as well, man. That must feel amazing for them to cut.
Yeah, it was interesting because they started off the day decent and 11th place, and it just got worse. 17th, 28th, 35th. But all of a sudden, the last game, they take the win.
Yeah, huge. Like they're 23rd before this game. So, you know, they either needed that kind of big, top 10 they were looking for, and none of the games they played prior to this were in the top 10 at all. So absolutely by far their best game when it actually mattered.
And I think when you look at, again, how the day went for them, right? It didn't seem like it was, you know, the smoothest of days for them. And I think there will be plenty for them to adjust and work on as they go towards the finals next weekend. But they ain't gonna worry about that for now. They have to just celebrate the dub.
100%. I mean, they had an on-con drop. It was kind of like a split at the bottom east corner of the map. So I'm curious to see how that translates to the finals now, and if they end up going through with it, or maybe trying to mix things up in those last moments. But hey, props to Kiri in those final moments to clutch it up as a solo. You can see he was tapped in for that last
Iya kayak di kahar dah. Kalau play ya saya dua main itu ke level 2. Parah.
The elites are always watching. All eyes on you. Fight well. This is your chance to prove yourself. Impress me. I know you have it in you. Play like you mean it. You want it bad enough? You'll find your way. I'll keep my eye on you. Get up. Fight on. The elites are always watching. All eyes are on you. Fight well. This is your chance to prove yourself. The elites are always watching. All eyes are on you. Fight well. This is your chance to prove yourself. The elite sometimes lose, but we never give up. Effortless, as it should be. Don't break the streak. Only the best earn their place among the elite. Now that is elite. Enjoy your winning streak. Time for a little payback, don't you think? That was underwhelming. Don't hold back. Fight to win. Elite play. Impress me. I know you have it in you. Stay in the fight. Dig in. Show
be a
Not gonna
different team.
lie.
They're gonna go somewhere else.
You
No,
give me
they're
that car,
not,
I'll
bro.
make sure they don't
I'm
con
telling
me.
you,
You know
bro.
what I'm saying?
Dude,
Like,
Brother,
just wait. You'll see. You'll see.
brother, Shark and
They're
Teeny
gonna
are
go somewhere.
literally
else.
going to run your shit.
Your team in LCQ, bro.
Yeah,
You gotta
that's what
double
I
down on
did.
that
That's
shit.
what I did.
Oh
I
yeah,
coached
that's
Yeah,
him in
Pete coached the
LCQ.
team to fucking land on me demons grants, and he paid him. Like what?
and you
Okay, I
paid him.
didn't-
What? Last chance qualifiers. Last chance
No, you didn't
qualifiers.
stand on it, bro.
You are?
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Yep.
Oh, that makes sense then. Yeah.
Why does that make sense?
Just like I don't know. Like I didn't. You don't.
Do you know what that is?
No, I'm saying like you don't.
No, you know.
It was such a
What's going on, Fortnite fam? I missed y'all so much. Yes, we had a great time with the Reload Elite series, but here we are back with the FNCS. Look at this new color, new us, new year. It's gonna be an amazing time. We've missed y'all so much. Hope you had a great time over in EU, but now it's our time. Also, shout out to Levin, pretty good host. Levin, stay in your lane, okay? No, I get to do this. You gotta go back to other stuff, okay? Anyway, let's bring in your analysts. Let's get them in here. You love them, you know them. It's Kelly Link, it's Vivid. Oh my gosh, Vivid, Kelly, I haven't seen y'all's faces in so long. We are back, FNCS is back, Vivid.
Oh, I am so excited, Zeke. This is awesome. Like Zeke mentioned, you know, I mean, we got the desk here. We're going to be providing you guys with all the information throughout the day, how everything works, and more importantly, all of the stats that we can possibly find. I'm going to kick us off early with one right now. 222, the number of days since we last had an FNCS broadcast like this, from, you know, online, from home, and everything like that. Yeah, sure, we've had globals in between. Yeah, sure, we had the Reload Elite series in between as well, but this just feels right, and I'm so excited to get into the action. Zeke already called it out. EU was absolutely phenomenal, and I'm expecting no different from NA.
So just like Vivid said, it has been a very long time since we've had an FNCS. And, you know, Vivid likes to bring the numbers. I try to bring the storyline to the analyst desk, and it's been a bit of a complicated story, Zeke. There's been a lot of real quick, just want to make sure that we got this all right. There we go. There we go. Okay. So if the pictures are together, that means that they have competed in an FNCS Grand Finals together, or just in Chapter 7, a Div Cup Finals. If there is, or that's the red strings. If they're together, that means that they're competing in Major 1. Okay, so Peterbot and Poyo are Grim Gate guys, reformed after Chapter 6, and surprise, surprise, they're absolutely dominating, getting back-to-back Div Cup Final wins, as well as the most recent Div Cup Final going into Major 1. Now, Ritual and Agers from opposing trios actually formed together, and have had a pretty good run so far, getting top 5 consistently, if not first and second place. Now, Qualed and Acorn, who used to be teammates going all the way back to Chapter 4, actually don't form together. In fact, Acorn and Bolts have been pretty consistent going all the way back to the end of Chapter 6, except for a week where Acorn played with Kanata and Bolts played with Rise. Now, before I talk about Qualed and Rapid, I do want to talk about the 4th team, Higgs and Clicks. Now, let me tell you, they have never looked better, Zeke, although I will say that your writing is getting a little lazy, because there was a week where it looked like Higgs and Clicks were going to be breaking up, but then they ended up winning the Div Cup Finals. And then that's just a rehash of a previous episode we saw from Peterbot and Poyo, where it looked like they were going to be breaking up, but then they ended up sticking together because they won the Reload Elite Series. So Zeke, I'm going to need you to do better, okay?
You weren't supposed to notice.
Don't
that.
interrupt me, Zeke. Okay, so we got Qualed and Rapid, and let me tell you, Qualed originally was playing with Booga for a week, and then he actually played with a mystery player who we'll talk about in a second, but he ends up playing with Rapid, and let me just say, I am so happy that Rapid is finally getting the attention that he deserves. I've honestly thought that he has been an incredible player going all the way back when he used to play with Batman Booga. And I mean, whatever happened to that guy? Wait a second, Zeke.
What?
Oh my God. Zeke, we don't have time for that. Okay, so anyway, the mystery player that I was talking about, who could that be? Oh my God, up in the sky. It's a bird, it's a plane, oh wait, no, it is just a plane. But Veno's in it, everyone. Oh my goodness, Veno has returned from across the pond. And if he's not playing with Qualed, is he playing with Clicks? No, he's gonna throw us a curveball, Zeke, and a curveball. And he's gonna play with Kurt. So let's shift focus onto this side of the board. There's even more snakes over here. Watch out, everyone. You know, while making this board, I found out that in the United States, the state with the most amount of snakes in it is Texas. What a coincidence. Anyway, so because Veno didn't end up playing with Qualed, Veno ends up playing with Curve, but Curve is originally playing with Craze. So Craze actually ends up playing with Booga, and Booga actually lived with Clicks for a little bit, which is kind of crazy, but nowhere near as crazy as everything that's happened with Kanata. Do you know this guy? Have we talked about him at all? The only player to make every single FNCS Grand Finals, one of 3 players to be the top performing North American team out of the recent global championships, and then, oh my God, Zeke, look at him. He's got his own corner on the board. He must be so amazing and have no problem finding any teammate to go into Major 1, right?
Right.
No, wrong, Zeke. Wrong. In fact, him even being up here is wrong because he's not even playing in North America Central. No, he's gone to NA West to play with Victor V, and honestly, I think they're going to have an absolutely incredible day. Now, we have to talk about Reed, good old Reed. I don't know if I've ever talked about him before. Maybe I've mentioned him, but look at him. Zeke, WK King, he's got 2 stars. It's not easy to get 2 stars, you know, unless you're Muzz or any of these guys. But regardless, he who's disrespected throughout the start of this chapter and finally finds a teammate in Javi. And you know, Zeke, either you're eliminated early or you survive long enough to see yourself become the enemy, and that's exactly what happened with Reet as he drops Javi right before Major 1. How could he do this? And then I found out that he actually dropped him for Cooper, and it's like, oh, well, that's how he did it. You know, also, Javi and Aminish have been doing absolutely phenomenal, so I think he might have gotten the better end of that deal.
Well, yeah, production, maybe we should just come back to 3 bombs.
No, Zeke, I haven't talked about Fact City yet.
Why don't we take some time?
We have to talk about Fact City.
Make sure
he's
that
at the center of everything, Zeke.
Make sure
I can't prove it just yet, everyone. He's in the center of everything. He's pulling all the strings.
Jacob, help, please.
Guys, please. We gotta get Kelly under control here, Jacob. It looks like the break has been a little too long for her.
No, it definitely has, but she might be on to one thing. The pressure that is on this lobby today. This is Heats. The format is going to be something that might surprise a couple people, but if you were here last year, it's a lot of the same. The play-in stage where Central qualified 150 teams to the group stage here, where we split up to 3 different heats, where the format win and you're in. That's 5 teams for the 5 games. The rest is left to the top 10 and the leaderboard, Monster.
That's right, and there's nothing like a Heats week. There's nothing like FNCS in general, right? Big wins, and then of course taking home that fat prize because you get to punch your ticket out of the day, right? So for some, it might just be a little easy night out, and then we have, of course, that last chance qualifier right before you know it. So all this Fortnite, Jacob, has suddenly ended up jam-packed into our schedule.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be one of those things where even if you don't make it through these heats, don't fret. Even though this is the easiest chance you're going to get, you still have the last chance qualifier where everybody who does not make it through heats to the grand finals will play all in the same time to try to get the last spots left. But there's still so much to break down. Hopefully Kelly has calmed down a little bit, Zeke.
It's fine. Everything's good. We're back. Here we are. Everything's fine, right? Kelly, you're good, right?
Yeah, I'd like to apologize to everyone. WebMD says that it might be work stress induced mania.
All right, Kelly. All right. Let's actually jump into how things are going to be breaking down today and who is going to be playing in the lobby, who we're going to be watching, and how all of the numbers kind of break down for heat number 1. Kelly's going to be having a breakdown. I'm going to be breaking down all of the numbers, though. Over here, as you can see, heat number 1, the lobby stats. Always love to kind of take a look at these stats as we're going into the heats. And just so you guys know at home, if you want to tune back in tomorrow and on Sunday for heats number 2 and 3, we're going to be running the same exact numbers there, so we can kind of make some comparisons. But so far today, we're going to have 239 total FNCS finals appearances across all of our competitors, 6 FNCS titles. We got a couple of FNCS winners, 3 total there, and then surprisingly, only 1 Div Cup win amongst all of our competitors here today. Like I said, tune in throughout the weekend and we'll see how these heats kind of match up.
It's so crazy to me to see these numbers and to still think that this is probably the least veteran that we have out of all of our heats. That many FNCS performances, and still we don't have like a lot of the big names here. And it just goes to show how top heavy North American Central has really become in the competition, Zeke.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I love this, man. 3 days of Fortnite. So much to talk about. Let's kick it off with that lobby list. Let's bring up some of the lists of players we're going to see compete here today. Why don't we start things off with Shadow and Virgo? You know, guys, can't lie to you. They have had some phenomenal performances out in the play-in stage. Talk to me a little bit about this duo. Why should everyone be hyped to see them compete?
I mean, honestly, Shadow and Virgo have had a pretty great performance, and I know Vivid's going to take it away with Shadow because I feel like every time we come onto the broadcast, you have to talk about Shadow a little bit. And there's no, I mean, I completely understand why. He has been an absolutely incredible competitor, going all the way back into Global Championships last year, getting 10th place, one of the best performing teams that we have seen from North America out of the Global Championships. And honestly, they've kept that rolling. Shadow and Virgo have been a great duo so far. Getting 5th place in the first Div Cup this season has just been the start, I think, to their success.
Yeah, I just really love to always point out the fact that, hey, Shadow is constantly finding himself in the conversation whenever we see these FNCS grand finals kind of going on. And, you know, he hasn't had that, like, win or, like, top 3 yet, but he's consistently finding himself in that top 10. And I love the fact that Kelly was kind of pointing out those performances because last year, major number 1 and 2, they picked up 9th. Major number 3, he picked up 5th, and then Global's 10th as well. The play-in specifically, though, this duo, Shadow and Virgo, they top the numbers charts over here for most eliminations and play-ins, 250. And if you take a look down, look at all of these duos that they actually beat out. Cold, you're beating out Cold in eliminations. You're beating out Peterbot and Pollo in eliminations. They're known for that. 250, incredible performance coming out of play-ins from this duo. I'm excited to see how they perform today.
That is hype. That's like, just to think about them having more elims. Oh man, we are in for it today. I mean, this, I got to assume, right? That means they are likely going to get a Victory Royale because that's all we need. We're either Victory Royale, win and we're in, or ending in the top 10. This feels doable, right, Kelly?
I mean, what was really fun for me watching their games back is that they get VRs through different play styles. We've seen them get a Victory Royale going from like low ground all the way into zone 11 and going for those really hardcore aggressions, but also winning from high ground. But the thing that really impresses me, Vivid, is that even when they are on high ground, they're still able to get a ton of eliminations. So if you're not able to claim that win, that is just going to help them throughout placements when it comes to heats.
Yeah, super excited to kind of see how they perform today. Another duo that I am excited to keep my eye on throughout the day. It's going to be Ritual and Agers. Obviously, listen, this is kind of like the big name of this heat. It kind of feels like, right? I mean, if you take a look at the placements last year for these guys individually, Agers 1st, 5th, 2nd in the majors. Ritual, incredible year, 2nd, 1st. Absolutely crazy. And remember that stat that we kind of talked about earlier where there are 6 total FNCS wins in this heat? These two right here take up 4 of those. So absolutely incredible stuff. And obviously, listen, they've got the experience. They know how to win FNCSs. But another thing that they have proven that they also know how to do this season is get eliminations. I was kind of looking at the stats for this heat and kind of comparing all of the individual stuff and how the teams are kind of doing it and some of the stuff this season. So took a look at the Div Cup finals and average elims per game. This duo absolutely dominates the rest of this heat. They're at 5 eliminations on average per game in Div Cup finals right now. That is absolutely insane.
I think a lot of that also comes down to, especially with it being a duos competition now for the FNCS, you get a lot of solo situations. And Ritual and Agers prove time and time again how they're able to kind of maximize the situation when it comes down to a solo situation. I'm not saying that they have to necessarily get the victory royale, but they make sure that they survive as long as they can, as well as getting a few eliminations, and that is so pivotal in a duos competition.
You guys got me hyped. You guys got me hyped. Let's bring up this lobby list. We want to talk about a couple more. Let's jump over. So we've talked about some like high profile duos, right? Let's maybe go to the other end. Let's talk about Rise and Curly. So these guys actually just recently formed and they're landing painted palms and they're contested. I feel like that's a pretty dangerous mix, but you know, this is still heats. All we need is a victory out, right, Kelly? Like, or a top 10. That feels doable, but you know, it's an uphill battle right now.
When you say danger, we also have to add the fact that they are going to be contested by James Sullivan and G-Sus over there at Painted Palms. But honestly, Curly and Rise, I mean, Rise has been a veteran for a very long time. Curly has also had his own shining moments throughout the FNCS, but definitely a newer compared to Rise. But I think that between the two of them, that they are probably going to be going more for consistency rather than the win. I do know that they have not played a single Div Cup finals together, so obviously that synergy is not going to be there. But having this opportunity to kind of play through Heats Vivid might give them the chance that they need to kind of warm their feet a little bit going into the competition for grand finals.
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of mentioning how new this duo feels, right? You could see that board that Kelly did such a good job on showing us how crazy NA has been. Yeah, this is one of those newer teams that formed outside of all of that mess. So not a lot of experience under their belts, but just individually speaking, they're just so good. It would be crazy to see a finals without them.
Dude, Rise is a literal legend. I mean, he's an OG. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have high hopes for the duo, right? Now, I know what you guys want. You want to see some Fortnite action. We are kicking off the FNCS. So, casters, over to you.
What a wild ride this is shaping up to be already, Monster, and the format proves it to be so. Even though there are 15 spots up for grabs with only 5 games, time can run out quick, and I've seen it before in the past where teams outside of that point threshold win that last game and kind of jumble things up, so you cannot take these chances for granted because going through the LCQ is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, it's going to be tough here, but hey, you know what? Heat 1, this is just, as we like to say, the beginning of the weekend, right? You know, if this was, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, we're starting with breakfast right now. Just kind of ease things up, get us into kind of the groove, open things up as we start, of course, looking at all the action. But, you know, this season also is almost entirely refreshed, right? As far as what kind of loot pool we're looking at, the drop spots that are available, right? So, Jacob, we have a lot, of course, that we're going to be looking forward to.
Yep.
And it sounds like,
right into game number 1.
Definitely right there. I'm ready for this right here. Fortnite is back, baby. FNCS season is here, Jacob. We get to, of course, call all of the action as we now begin things off here with Heat 1, game number 1.
Yep, and this is where, as the games progress, it's going to continue to get interesting because as a team wins the game, we talk about that instant 1,000 points. It grants you a spot in the FNCS Grand Finals next weekend, and you don't have to play the rest of the games out, which means your drop spot then opens up for somebody else in the lobby if they're going to take the risk and try to take it. But the contested fight over towards Painted Palms, this is what Kelly, Vivid, and Zeke were talking about. Rise and Curly, they have a lot of experience on their team. It's just about how you put it together against a team that you might not know a lot about.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Curly and Rise obviously easily could be favorites, of course, that we're going to be looking at here for Painted Palms here. But you know what? There's going to be, of course, all types of competition everywhere. And as you know, Jacob, I mean, it can go either way. If you look at EU, some teams were deciding, hey, I'm not just going to go ahead and, you know, pick up the Victory Royale right now. I actually want to get my reps in. You can't fault them, right, for wanting to play all the 5 games out as well. Because top 10 through consistency, for some of the teams that you look at inside the Heat, I mean, that's a relatively low bar, right, for them to hit. So I am going to be keeping my eye on, if you will, okay, who's gonna play for the win? Who's gonna punch their ticket out early? Who's actually gonna just stick around just to keep us entertained?
Yeah, two different kind of win conditions to get into that finals. And this is a team, you know, speak of those win conditions, that can do both. Ritual Agers, uncontested at Sandy Strip. They have a lot of time, a lot of space here to kind of get up their loot, get their materials, and kind of go from there. This is a team, though, that is also known to kind of use some of those tricks in the middle to launch onto teams unexpectedly. Wonky Land, this is where most times or not, you see it uncontested by Clicks and Higgs, but they're no longer in the lobby. That leaves Sniper and Avenger against Mopping and Max here, who also contested them in the eval finals.
Yeah, that is something really interesting, right? Depending on who comes out of this drop or really out of this heat here will determine if whether or not Clicks may have some competition, of course, leading into the finals. So all of these fights do matter, but Avenger's team is going to come out on top. And gosh, they made that look nice and quick there. Sniper Dude and Avenger Lurk just come in, catch their 2 elims, and get out.
Yeah, that's huge right there, and just take note of the lack of damage, or the little bit of damage that they actually take with the Storm Surge changes. That's going to help them so much because they get early damage. Now they have uncontested Wonky, and they can kind of set up to go through the rest of their game plan, figure out where the zone pulls, and kind of work their way from there. Jesus, see his duo here from Painted Palms. And a lot of times you see a contested fight monster and you think it's kind of be a 50-50. Maybe they're going to fight it until one team fully gets eliminated. This time, early on here in heat number 1, it does look like Painted Palms is going to split this time around.
Yeah, really interesting. We'll keep tabs on them too, right? This is one of the first times they actually get themselves on the broadcast here. So no real, you know, history to reflect back on, but some battles with Prezi and Fabio here. Just gonna go ahead and give things up, use those overdrive shockwaves to slide on out. Not exactly wanting to put too much pressure here onto Slips and Toronto. Things seem to have slowed down, and they're gonna be content with the early engagement. And these engagements are still important, right? Of course, we haven't gotten into what Storm Surge will be, but this game so far does seem to be pacing pretty fast. Like, these fights are generally ending, so I'd be surprised if we see one early on, honestly, at this pace.
Yeah, it's just one of those give and takes. You know, you see as the tournament gets on, teams are more willing to take the risk, get aggressive, go for eliminations because they know where they stand at the leaderboard. But in game number 1, you're seeing very, very slow action. Leahy, Ultra, they're just lurking around. They got that one elimination. You see Cryptify sitting there by himself. They just don't know exactly where he's at. And this side of the map is one of the sides of the map that actually got some of the changes in the last update, with Treetop Terrace no longer there, which means the spot where they're at now, which used to be kind of split, is now one of the focal points for this drop spot where teams are more than likely going to 50-50 fight just like this.
Definitely, and it's worth taking that battle there, of course, early, but jump in with Virgil and Shadow. I mean, the highlights that we put on this team, of course, at the top of the show had to be all around. Feels good for them, right? Performing so well and being able to push the eliminations further and further. You know, this is a team that every year we've only gotten to say more and more good things about them, and I genuinely feel like Shadow might just be next up. Who knows? This could be his breakout opportunity. Hopping on over to, of course, the vets themselves. These champions here, Genji's, Agers, and Ritual, already on the hunt right now.
Yeah, this is a team where they get their spot uncontested right now, and they want to keep it that way. A lot of teams on the eastern side of the map, when the zone pulled in this direction, like to visit this vending machine, but they're not really going to get too many chances, especially with Agers and Ritual actually here. You see, they already have one elimination, so they know that players is solo by himself. No third-party shots coming in, which means they have all the comfortability in the world to continue to try to fight this exactly how they are, playing aggressive with these Thunderbursts, just trying to break through the builds. If they're lucky, maybe bleed some of that damage through to get the elimination, as they finally pick that one up. There goes 2, and there goes early Surge for a great start here.
That Chaos Shotgun can hit hard, but of course you have to time when you are going to use it, as it is a give and take weapon. Takes quite some time to reload there once, of course, you let that first big pump off, but 160 is going to land for Agers. They make it look nice and easy. On the other side, we hop in with Scuffy's here. He seems to have gotten the eastern shoulder here of the Barracks all to himself. Not too bad.
Yeah, kind of uncontested, which in one aspect, you get a little bit of freedom, but it is the split drop. And on this side of the map, you see a lot of contested fights at the new sanctuary, the surrounding land towards the south. There are some uncontested spots that they can try to loot up for Day and Scuffy's towards the north side, where hopefully somebody didn't grab those already. But with the way the zone's pulling, Day and Scuffy's, they have a great start. They just need to start the rotation quick if they're trying to make it over towards Wonky Land, where you see JoJo and Aoxy. They too land at a little bit of a split drop in between Wonky and the Frigid Fortress. There is a good amount of loot there, and they usually look towards both of those POIs to get the early surge, and that's why you see JoJo Fishy set up here with the surge base.
Big fan of the Frigid Fortress kind of standoff here from JoJo and Aoxy, like the high ground, all that visual here on the map. In general, this is probably one of the more powerful locations you can have control of. We start talking about that. Look at the other teams kind of migrating into this general area as we talk about the strength of the drop. There's a lot of potential action to be unfolding here. I think Rogue FNBR here is looking to do probably has win that little bit of knowledge. There might be a team to their north, right? For those that have rotated nice and late here.
Which is going to be tough for Rogue and Spear here. You kind of got their strategy set out for a lot of people that are in this position, not just them, but other teams as well. Rogue has a job here. It's to look out in the distance and to get as much surge as possible to make the later parts of their game easier. Spear is just down below, re-farming up the mats they used to get that base and just finding any extra resources. And it's important that his teammate up above watches his back to make sure he doesn't get snuck up on. And you're kind of seeing how these strategies start to play out because they have the benefit of being in zone, unlike Boogie and Cash here. They are trying to re-farm up, get the rest of their materials, but they have a long distance to cover. You see the zone pulling them out of Humble Hills, so if they're not necessarily set on surge, they might have their game plan dictated for them.
Definitely got to make sure they're picking up the pace here. Not to trail too far behind. Putting yourself in a desperate situation as Prom and here actually looking pretty solid. 2 eliminations. All in all, they could have a little bit more heals to be desired, but the Dark Dominion, so much metal here to be farmed up. This is quite honestly one of the most excellent places you can just base down and chill out. As we talk about that, you see the big metal tower there right on top of the Dark Dominion. On the other side, you have Bucky and Zen. So obviously this is a team that is a favorite, right, for some of the community here. What do you think about Zen and Bucky right now?
I think honestly they have as good a chance as anybody at making it out of this heat. It was unfortunate, you know, before FNCS in Season 1 where they were landing at Quasi against OSID, against Noah Plays, multiple different trios. Sometimes it would actually be a contested drop. And you guys know Bucky, he's not going to back down. So I don't think he showed his full potential last season, but this is FNCS, this is Heat. He has an uncontested split drop, but I think him focusing on rotating early, trying to get in towards zone, trying to set up on a mountain so they can go ahead and get that surge would be the second part of their game plan.
Did find that stat to be interesting as well. They're just looking at best 16 at this point. So we'll see if they can pull it together, how much improvement they've been able to make over the week. Visuals and Braids, though, this is a team that I start to see their names, and I'm really, you know, it's calling to me. Veterans at this point now, right? They've been around the block for so long, and they've been in these settings. They've won games under FNCS pressure, finals pressure, right? So for Heats, I think this is a shoe-in team right here, and of course, anyone that's going to be in their line of sights is going to be in big trouble right now. So we'll see if Press and Crew rotating from the north sides to be okay, and we'll tune back in with them in a second.
You see them kind of biding their time this season, just like last, you know, with the heals around the map. You don't necessarily have to rush it at this point in the game. You can sit as long as you have some couple extra med kits, maybe some splashes to try to rotate in later after all the chaos drops down. But for teams like this, Dark Dominion, basically the center of the map here, they beat almost every other team to this position. And hopefully, if they played their cards right, they won't have to rotate far. And as long as they got their surge, that'll be 2 bonuses there, but there's no real reason for them to rotate around. You're seeing everybody in the surrounding distance, both high ground and low. You see Prom down below, just kind of waiting to the next stage of the game because of Storm Surge.
Jumping into the storm now with Cash and Boogie here. A little pressure coming from up top, down onto Phoebe and Dizzy's. They seem to be in no rush at the moment. They still have that slap pizza as well to go ahead and work. The advantage in their favor here. Great tags coming out so far. Just barely above the threshold. Not too sure if this is going to hold off very well. They might actually have to overdrive shock their way in and continue to keep the pressure on this rotate. For now, though, they're letting them just burn through the builds and ease on out on the rotate, and they're just going to give it up. So they feel pretty content with the situation they've landed themselves in. I mean, Jacob, you think it's going to be the right move, or is that a slight mistake letting that team get away?
I think it's okay for now. It's about what you do after this, because they were able to get a little bit more surge for their totals, and because they're not rotating in right away, they don't have that immediate risk. But as every other team beats them, you're going to see it here in the minimap. The edge of the zone is going to become more and more stacked. So when they finally start to make their rotation into the zone, they have to play it perfectly, because they could be that chosen team, backside of zone, getting sprayed at by 3 or 4 of their opponents. So that's why you got to pick and choose when you wait the storm and when you beeline it to the zone itself.
Definitely a good shot on that one. Well, time is starting to tick now, even for Rise and Curly here. Rise picking up what I would consider one of the most skilled up-and-comers here in Curly, who's obviously had his breakout opportunity. He's leaning strong from the last year, right into this duo season, but 118 damage above. Things are starting to look a little bit dangerous here for the duos. They've kind of been passive, if you will, in this base. There goes the overdrive, so now looking to go ahead and get in on the push here. Shots come in, and Curly's got his back, so Rise escapes that bit of danger that he might have found himself in, and it seems like the teams that's right below him, though, Day's team also pushing in. They might all be in trouble, but here's the team that's in true trouble. It's Cormac's gonna fall first.
Yeah, unfortunately, leaving his teammate by himself. 285 below. Active Storm Surge every 7 or so seconds. 25 damage. He has a good amount of shield. 2 more big pots left, but that's not going to be enough to outlast. He needs at least 2 eliminations full worth of damage. There goes his first opportunity here, but Storm Surge still taking him down. 1 shot away, he will fall, but now he has to pick and choose. What's more important, healing now or just trying to get that damage? Because the longer he waits, the harder it's going to be. But the second big pot has now already been used. It's now or never.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure if the math is mathing here. He might have needed to fight that team immediately, but no, he jumps in on Curly instead. A great, valiant tag, and he's still putting the pressure on. This might be super problematic for Curly and Rise, but Curly just slips out of there, inching his way up a layer, and Rise was there to back him up. But that just shows you too, look, this team needed that damage, right? They're still 56 below themselves.
Yeah, and it's because of the last 2 rotations. You know, when Rise was shockwaving across, he got tagged up a little bit. Now Curly rotating in, he got hit as well. 21 below the damage threshold, even with that elimination. And this is where you start to think, Rise, one of the greatest IGLs, you have a decent amount of heals. You can choose to out-heal this and try to get damage on this next rotation. It just all depends. Do you pull zone or does it pull further away? Because if it pulls further away from Rise and Curly, it just got even harder for them to get above that damage threshold.
That's right. And it's only a consideration when you have, you know, yourself that close to the line, right? When you're far, a couple hundred damage off, all of a sudden becomes way more risky to go for that heal off. But we'll see. Looks like City Flexes still have a lot to worry about. 206 damage below for themselves right now, and they also pull zone, so this is pretty tough too. Not quite having like a line of sight, it seems like, on other opponents. The teams in the distance are all based in metal. No heals for this team. It's going to be all she wrote for them here in a couple moments. Rise and Curly sitting right underneath them. They hear the damage as well. They take full advantage here, so they might have just been gifted up a wonderful set of at least material, if nothing else, but we know for certain this team didn't have heals.
Yeah, the first elimination, he was so low on HP, Storm Surge struck him down. So if you guys don't know, when you're taking that active Storm Surge damage, you don't go down, you don't get knocked, you get fully eliminated. And Rise and Curly were able to wrap up that second elimination. And again, if you do not pull zone, it is so hard for you to keep up with Surge. That just goes to show how impressive right now Rise and Curly are actually performing to stay within that Storm Surge threshold, even when other players are forcing these fights.
Rotate now to Dragon. 62 above, trying to push the fight there, but no, the edit comes through. Big punishment in return there. Flowberry missed grenade. Arguably used just because he had to. That just shows us a sign of desperation there. Back to Curly and Rise, though. They seem to have almost stabilized their situation, right?
Yeah, and right now, unless you get that far pulled zone on the eastern side, which you can see in the minimap nobody does, it's going to be relatively kind of game planned as usual for Rise and Curly, exactly what they practice. They have to rotate over a lot of teams, though, probably more than half of the lobby if they're looking to make it from point A to point B. Luckily for them, they were able to get some damage. We saw them below the damage threshold. Now we see them 235 above. Let's see if they can continue this performance, because they've been progressively getting better as the game does go on. But from Bucky and Zen, 356, and they have less of a rotation to make than Rise and Curly.
Definitely a little short move here to the left. I like it. Plenty of overdrive shockwaves. My gosh, I think they got about 8 if my count was correct. Not too much medium ammo to work with though, but the pressure is definitely available for them to go into use. You start looking at the rotates that start to come through. No one quite solidified as far as looking to take for high ground. One team seems to have already made that decision. Visual and Braids coming from the far side on the rotate here. Very cleanly done. No pressure coming in from anyone else as well, so they're just granted a clean walk in here.
Yeah, and you notice they used that overdrive shockwave grenade, but they used it in the box. They didn't want to use it to shockwave through the sky because that leaves you susceptible to taking damage. They just simply wanted that effect so they can do exactly what you said, walk their way in towards zone, and don't bring too much attention to what they do have going on. Aloe and Listen, they position themselves below the edge of that mountain. Found a big elimination there for the refresh. They don't necessarily need it in terms of their actual loadout. It's the materials, you know, that'll run dry as this game progresses.
Monsters game for them so far. 6 eliminations, still 50 players remaining here, so things are heating up for Ages and Rituals as well. Look at them cook here from the high ground, aiming down. It's fish in a barrel. Elim after Elim. Points are starting to rack up now, and that's going to be momentum as well. Don't forget, when you start getting that max material count late into the game like this, you will start seeing teams get very more aggressive for playing for high ground. Visitors and Braids opt to play the mid layer here. Still have a chance to do something big right now. Out they go through the side like this play, and up and over they go to the front side of zone. Braids is going to go ahead and play for the load to the mids. And it's Bucky and Zen who are slightly at the top. So I think we might have hyped them up a fair bit here. Jacob, what do you think?
This is looking good for Bucky, Zen, and Minish, Hobby, all of them on the high ground, but Curly and Rise still, Storm Surge really dictating their game plan. You saw them below the damage threshold, forced to get aggressive as a new team entered the mix. No more Hobby, no more Bucky. It's the Tick, it's Mafia. They have now taken it. 8 zones, so there's still 4 more left to go. Material looking light, especially with the Fizz and the Shockwaves. Anybody can threaten your high ground at a moment's notice, and there goes Zen, there goes Bucky from the backside of the zone. They get that first elimination, and they claim it as their own.
It's their first Elim as well as a duo in this endgame here. Mafia gets finished as well, and just like that, it's a full clean house. Bucky now landing on top of the opponents here, reinforcing the base. He's got to be careful though. You see Creon there hopping on off, but here comes the reinforcement. It cost them a lot, but this is exactly the position you want to be in. And look at this, the terrain playing into their favor. Up and over the mountain it goes, and Rise though having to play the Flowberry missed here inside the zone for just some time. It's going to keep him alive, and off to the edge he goes, and pressure coming from up top. Bucky and Zen, of course, pick up another elimination. Things are starting to cook here.
This is going to be a big opportunity here for Bucky and Zen, because you have to remember the situation that this format plays into. Win, and you get directly into the grand finals. But from high ground to low, Aegis, Ritual, they're running through the mud right now, trying to take as much space and control, attacking while the Iron Top. There was one team there, but they realized they already have the front side of the zone. There's not much for them to fight for, especially with 7 eliminations already.
This is the prime situation to be in here. You know, you got a big 7 on the board. All you need is some more placement points, and you are going to be coasting your way through on consistency alone. Braids and Visuals managed to get themselves back in the game here. A couple more mats, and you see Agers and Ritual starting to gas out here on their material count. So for them, it's likely going to be a low ground play here as they start looking to chop through these other layers here. Shadow, Virgo, we've kept them kind of under wraps, and they're on the ultimate low ground right now. Talk about that overdrive play there. Just go ahead and make sure that you have maximum stamina as they start working through the low ground. Meanwhile, Visuals lost Braids here. Pressure coming in. Off he goes. Set running through and probably into the hands of Shadows there shortly.
Yeah, big elimination as well for Nut as he takes down Agers, leaving another player as a solo. As Bucky and Zen, all these recycled builds, it cuts back in their favor. It's almost smooth sailing. As long as they don't make a mistake, this game might be theirs, but Visual, he's smoothly moving through underneath, trying to stay to the front side of zone. Ritual as well, but eventually these guys will clash, and there's so many other duos left in the mix just trying to go ahead and win this game or at least get points, because remember, top 10 after the day is over will also advance to the grand finals.
There it is, the clash already starting to happen here. Ritual finally forced to defend themselves, finds Shadow, and that's a monstrous tag. Sets them off on the back foot as the zone bounces back, and Ritual thinking twice about going through that build there.
Shadow and Virgo, you can see even though they have the strength in numbers as a duo, they're running low on HP. Diminished as well, but he finds a quick elimination there onto Noisy, picks up all the siphon mats, and now he's looking up, saying, hey, this might be the chance. Bucky and Zen have been holding it for so long, at least 4 zones. They might be low on materials. Ritual just trying to get a couple more placement points, but it's Shadow and Virgo down below that are trying to pressure the situation. With no builds left, he might need a miracle.
Yeah, I like it though. 5 elims for them now. They actually found themselves a bit of a refresh. There goes that overdrive once again here. So plenty to work with, but these are no slouch duos left in the lobby. Javi, of course, just above them. And this always comes down to who initiates against who first here. Of course, you got the high ground team looking down. You got Ritual kind of just a lurker in the middle here, playing the sandwich. Off to the front side he goes. He's taking way too much damage now. He's going to be forced here to do something big. Just trying to run around and buy himself some time. But no, Javi comes down, lays down the smash there. Here comes the Diminish there. It's a nasty fight down low. Zen actually falls first, and there's a big problem now. Diminish has a chance to win. The shockwave is not fast enough, though, and it's going to come down to Shadow and Virgo versus Bucky in a heal-off. Who do you think got it, Jacob?
Yeah, Zen played Disruptor there in that moment, allowing for Bucky to get away, but did he do a good enough job? One is already down. Virgo's looking for heals. He doesn't get the look. Bucky and Zen in one game have qualified for the FNCS Grand Finals.
Hey, we might have gave him some good casters luck for once. You know, we said that the community was hyping them up. Let's see what Bucky can do and what can Zen do to back him up with it, and they pull off a victory royale. And Jacob, you saw there, it was better than any other performance they had before, so well played to them. Either way, Heat 1, Game 1 is now wrapped, Zeke.
Bucky! Let's go!
I cannot believe this. Bucky, let's go. Grand finals time. Now we're going to look to try and compete, make it to the summit. You know, Vivid, I think it's really funny that you brought up right before this. We're watching this kind of unfold, and we look up and we're like, oh, wow, Bucky, Zen on height, 9th zone. That's crazy. What did you tell us, Vivid? What did you tell us?
So I was watching Aussie earlier, right, doing a little viewing party of EU, and he was like, yeah, listen, guys, we're going to be watching NA later. We have to kind of like hate watch Bucky because we don't want Bucky to do good this season, because if he qualifies and plays in the Summit in-person event going on later this year, then he's not going to be able to be on stream and kind of be that supporting caster on Aussie's stream this year. And listen, Aussie, I'm sorry, man. Bucky's done it again. One step closer to qualifying to the Summit. One of our first teams over here on NA to qualify for the Grand Finals next week, and he just does it, Kelly. He just does it in Bucky fashion.
I mean, there was moments there. You can see they're down to 16 builds, although at zone 12, that's still pretty good. They played it so well. They knew exactly when they kind of needed to drop down. They handled Javi and Diminish going up for them really well. And then you heard the casters call it. Zen kind of playing this disruptor, which allowed Bucky to go back, find some heals, and then get the heal off win. And when it comes down to heats, that's what it's all about. Having that strategy in mind, knowing exactly what your win condition needs to be. And Bucky and Zen bring that out in game number 1.
That picture of me of Bucky was my reaction when I was like, the moment we saw him out in zone, and I was like, oh no, he has 1 med kit, but just off to the left, slice of pizza. Love to see it. Congratulations to Bucky and Zen. Big moment for you guys. It means next time we'll see you is next weekend in the Grand Finals. Now, more did transpire in that game, but first, a break. When we return, we'll break things down and get ready for game number 2. Welcome back, Fortnite fam. In case you missed it, Bucky and Zen picked up the Victory Royale in game number 1, which means they're going straight to the grand finals next weekend. In case you missed it, Bucky was actually streaming his perspective with a 5-minute delay. Go watch that reaction. It's ice cold. It's Bucky. It's awesome. Congrats to the duo. Now, of course, we still have a tournament to go, right? We got 4 more games, 4 more VRs to be had. So let's take a look at the leaderboard. Let's see how things are kind of shaping up after that first game. As we kind of look up to the top here, obviously don't freak out. The 1,000 points, that just means, hey, they got themselves a VR. They're moving on. So now we look down. Shadow and Virgo currently with 72 points sitting at the top of the leaderboard. We were kind of hyping these guys up at the start of the show. And I mean, to come out with a bang like this and to be first on that leaderboard, that's a pretty good showing, Kelly.
I mean, yeah, you know, Vivid's going to talk about it as soon as I'm done talking, but Shadow has just been such a top competitor for so long, and to see them kind of running the low ground right here, playing so well, especially when they're kind of going up against a lot of other big names that kind of were relegated to low ground there, for them to kind of play the side, play it passively, not necessarily go for eliminations like we've seen them do in the past, though, Vivid, and just play out the game, that's what I like to see.
Yeah, incredible for them to kind of make it all the way to the end game. We were kind of talking about it after the game ended, man. All of our top teams that we were kind of expecting to do well today were all alive towards the end of that one. And you can see it on the leaderboard. It shows it. Ritual and Adris following up just 5 points behind Shadow and Virgo. And yeah, they were actually just playing that end game very, very well. Like, obviously, we know high ground always does good. Low ground always does good, usually in the past couple of metas. But Ritual and Adris, they were actually playing the majority of this end game throughout that mid ground, just picking up enough elimination to go ahead and sustain throughout all of that. It just worked so well for them. And they did need a little bit of a solo clutch towards the end because one of them did go down, but just worked out so well. I mean, second on the consistency leaderboard right now. Absolutely phenomenal spot to be sitting.
Yeah, it was Adris that went down a little, or I say early, he went down in like zone 11, but Ritual, the way that he played that solo situation really impressed me. When I was watching it around zone 10, they were kind of staying at the front of zone, but then as soon as Adris goes down, Ritual plays the passive playstyle, and that's exactly what you need. Ritual was able to kind of play the mid-ground zone, and obviously when it's just 3 teams left and you're stuck in the middle, there's only so much you can do. But to see Ritual be able to just shift gears so quickly once he loses his teammate is just always what impresses me about him.
Yeah, we love Richie on this broadcast, okay? And we will forever love to see them. I also wanted to highlight here in 3rd place, Javi and Diminished. Obviously, at the beginning of the show, you know, Kelly pulled out a conspiracy board and we had to cut her off before she got to talk about Javi and Diminished.
What are you talking about?
But man, to see these guys now in 3rd place as well. I mean, guys, this is looking really good. And I have to say, just a fantastic start. You know, the first game of FNCS back, I love to see that. But talk to me about Javi and Diminished. We didn't have time to talk about them in the beginning of the show, but these guys are currently sitting in 3rd place. That's pretty dang good.
I mean, coming out of Heats in 1st place, although it is Heats, that is still incredibly impressive. They're also landing Dark Dominion, uncontested right now in this Heat. Honestly, everything is just spelling for their success, Vivid.
Yeah, just doing super, super good. One of the other teams that we're going to be watching today, Visual and Braids, of course, well-known duo. It's actually their trio mate in Diminished, right? So when we kind of talked about, or when we kind of mentioned Visual and Braids ending the year with double force in Major number 2 and Major number 3, Diminished was right there with them. So finished the year very, very good last year as Diminished, and then gonna go ahead and pick up Javi right here. Not necessarily a player known for any pop-up performances or any like notable placements in FNCS Grand Finals, but for some reason, like Kelly mentioned, coming out of the play-ins, they got 1st place there, so they were like the best team kind of coming into Heats. They got thrown into Heat number 1, and kind of seeing them in the end game, they did have that high ground for a split second at the end of that game, so would not be surprised to kind of see them continue to find success in these end games, playing so good.
And you know, like, I just feel like this is such a different like tone of FNCS, right? Because normally it's like, oh, we're just in Major 1, we're playing for Grands, but now it's like Grands, yeah, that's pretty good, but there's also a Summit like right after that seems pretty good. Maybe I want to try and make that. So I don't know, I think a lot of these teams are thinking the same thing. How do we secure a spot on the battle bus going to the Summit? With that being said, though, we'll talk about that more later on. For now, game number 2 is ready, so casters, over to you.
Already things are heating up. A huge battle for the high ground. Multiple teams involved, but congratulations again to Bucky and Zen. But 1 game down, 4 games left to go. Instead of the usual 6, Monster, things will continue to fly by.
Yeah, and I mean, the vibes are looking pretty good right now. If you're Aegis and Ritual, though, talk about just control, right? This should be a shoo-in for them moving forwards again. At this point in time, they've got everything they need to go ahead and keep pushing through. And Shadow, of course, popping off, and Virgo hasn't looked any better, Jacob. So I'm really excited after seeing game one, as we almost just got a sample of what this Heat, of course, has to offer.
Yeah, we saw a little bit in EU where there was like a point threshold where a team, I think in 9th place, went down and they lost their shot at the actual finals through Heat. They're going to have to play through LCQ. So as the day continues to progress, I'm going to be looking at some of those teams on the bubble and how well they hold on to the pressure. But game 2 is here, so let's jump right into it.
Heat 1's game 2 is now on the way. You know, the action here was very, very nice in game number 1, as we had about 86 or so players drop just coming out of zone 1. So I'm really curious to see if we'll see 10 or 15 players fall even faster now. Usually, traditionally on NA, Jacob, as you know, game 1's the slowest, but Heat 1 seems to be moving relatively nicely as far as pace is concerned.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be dictated all the same here. It's a pickaxe battle, something you don't even necessarily see every day. Shockwaves to create a little bit of distance. Out comes the first AR. Flies is able to get at least one player down weak, but Nut and Prom survive the onslaught. They're able to get the drop to themselves, and those are the fights I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but it also comes with the drop sometimes.
I was going to say, that's not strategy. That's just rolling the dice at this point, you know, just whatever happens, how it lands, it'll land. But at the end of the day, hey, they get to continue to do what they've been doing. They made the most out of the game 1, obviously, because they're up in that high 50-point threshold. So it's great momentum for them. Meanwhile, Blake and Preston trying to make the most of their drop spot here at the Latte Landing and actually catch themselves a nice elim. So putting themselves on the board here.
Yep, and throughout most of the season, too, Blake was somebody through different teammates that always landing towards Fort Field. And I'm not sure what prompted the change, but maybe if you know you're going to be contested, because that's what history says for someone like Blake, might as well make it worth it. Switch on over towards Latte Landing, so if you do win the fight, you get a lot for it. They already have one elimination, and they're just looking for that solo player, Plezzy, who's just hiding around the corner. And so it's very, very important for Blake and Preston to check all of these corners together as a team so they can at least trade out the shots. Plezzy hits the first. Blake gets dropped down to about 50 HP. Quickly slides out the window, now trying to put some damage onto Preston, but that time and moment has come and gone.
Yeah, I was going to say, big threat coming out of the shot there, but unfortunately couldn't get the follow-up or lock him up, so this is going to be only a matter of time for Plezzy now if he can't find a way to exit. They've lost him for a second here, so he's been very hard to pin down.
It's one of those things to where how much time do you spend looking for him before you kind of continue on with the rest of the game? And for Plezzy, not sure if he's playing for the actual reboot card or to catch him off guard yet again. Missed that first opportunity exactly. Blake is going to be able to stay alive, return back to the scene of the crime, try to land some damage onto Plezzy. Preston gets into the mix as well, and they get that elimination. It may have taken more time that they have hoped, Monster, but at least they got the job done.
Yeah, Blake and Preston deserve that elimination there. You can't miss your shots when you're under pressure. We had the one-on-one opportunity for Aegis and Ritual, though, like we said, pretty much the most chill duo in this lobby as far as the top pros are concerned. You know, they're all business. No games here. Like what we're seeing, though. Hit their drop in and out and already off to the races here. Look at the highlight for the Ewan, though. This is how they blows here. Too smooth.
Actually good. I thought we were going to see them kind of fly off of Sandy Strip with the blob that they use, with the shockwave grenade, but no, clean, simple, sticking to the game plan, just a different fashion. On over to Painted Palms. Last game, Monster, we saw Rise and Curly actually split this drop. I'm not sure how much that played in a role into them being below the damage threshold for a good portion of the early game, but this time around, it seems like they're refusing to actually split it unless they get forced by some other way.
Yeah, I'd argue that this is working fine for them. They were in way too much of a stressful situation, given that they, again, like you just mentioned, played it very passively and moved out. I'd like to see them engage a little sooner, not have that early surge issue, and then go for better positioning later. And as we talk about that, unfortunately, Jesus just gets gifted the team that was lurking nearby, so could have arguably earned those points themselves. But on over to Shadow and Virgo here for a moment. Got Nut and Prom on the back heels here, pushing back. Seems like their ambush was a bit of a failed attempt here.
Not bad, but also not too surprising from Shadow and Virgo. They kind of land just south of Frigid Fortress. They go ahead and loot up rather quickly, and then they kind of get options depending on where the zone is actually going. They can stay at their POI if it's moving towards the north, but they also have quick access to multiple mountains on the south side of the zone if it does pull in that direction. They might have to go through a few teams, but it also works in their benefit because they're able to get surge just like you see there. And all over the map, you're seeing so many different strategies. Some OG, just like the bush camp, just wait and see if somebody makes a mistake. And right now, Snake just was a little bit too out in the open by himself. Boogie and Cash, they cash in on that damage.
Nicely done for them. A little bit of initiation, but they have a lot to be desired. Not too much medium ammo here. It's going to be almost dependent on the pistol. And realistically, they need to get back to looting or finish up this fight quickly. They'll be in for a bad mid-game. Jumping over to Broken and Sandman. Yeah, this is going. Quick little set of eliminations here at Squiggly Shores. Clean things up, and that's going to be the full finish, so they have a chance now to go and get back in the game, too. Always tell by the lack of builds, of course, what teams have been in extended standoffs, if you want to call it that.
Especially a spot like this where you can easily max out your brick, 500 mats there, but seeing how they actually were able to pick up that elimination kind of quickly in a 2v1, and that's what happens when you have the numbers advantage. Some teams will back off, let the solo escape, maybe go for the reboot later. Others just simply play aggressive. 3 points per elimination when it's 5 teams getting in through a win, that top 10 going to the leaderboard. Sometimes 3 points. We've seen FNCS decided by less.
Agers, Ritual taking Tabney for a little bit of a trip here. Are they going to pull that strategy we saw where they throw him in the reboot van and just hold him down?
Oh, no.
Is that what they're doing? Do they have that much time right now? What's going on? Are they going to throw him into this and heal him? Okay. Yeah. I like what I'm
We're just seeing, and it's honestly, do you give all your strategies here in heats, or are they just trying to put it in a spot that you can't easily grab the reboot card? Because yes, you can still buy it for 500 gold. It's not as easy to come across that 500 gold depending on where you land.
I like this too. I like this. Like, oh, you want his reboot? Go ahead and build up there. We'll see you when we see you, buddy. There you have it. So just like that. I'm not sure what Tabney did to deserve that. You know, I was talking about Agents of Ritual, all business, no games. And I don't know, maybe I just cursed it. It's got to happen at least once. But you have it.
I actually did want to see the reboot strategy, though, where you just kind of throw them in, get free damage.
That would be great.
Maybe it's a little bit too early. We are still in heats, but so much action going down. We see the Agers, Ritual get an elim, Skiddler there, get another elim, and it just goes to show, like, hey, if you're one of those teams that land just on the edge of the map, depending on where the zone pulls, you don't really have much time to loot up and get early Storm Surge. And the way these games have been going, I think you said about 86 people up in Game 1 when Storm Surge popped. Well, guess what? Right now, there's 81. Storm Surge is going to pop soon.
Yeah, but still on pace, right? Very fast game so far as the action here on the NA region. Doja and Aoxy, very consistent, smooth team. They've been in so many endgame finals. They seem to have things under control here. You gotta appreciate a team that's just able to kind of farm up good tags, find their knocks, right? And really not have to overexert themselves. They're not even getting greedy to finish up the game. So really showing you the temperament, right, of a team that has been in finals before.
Looking out from the distance. Avenger Sniper won the actual fight for Wonky Land, but they're having some trouble gaining some traction from there. Couple of reboots, and Sniper Dude's still by himself. Across the map, Slips, Toronto. Decent performance from Toronto and Slips in Game 1. 9th place overall with 8 elims, with them 6th place on the actual leaderboard. And if you're looking at consistency, you know, that was actually 5th place because Bucky and Zen have already qualified. So they just have to stay within this point threshold. And with the zone pulling north, the team in front of them, this is not going to be an easy game for Toronto and Slips to make it through.
Good point, man. Having 50 points, you got a huge, I'd say 2 feet in the room, not a foot in the door. You're standing in the room right now because they're on their way. you know, for some, you have the pressure of actually having good points for the first time in this type of setting. It could be an extra bit of stress that actually breaks you. And Sniper Dude in the same situation. We talk about teams that are actually looking really good after a game win here. 68 points for this team. Not bad. And they have the wonky land under control right now. There is a team there. But I'd probably assume that they have the damage they need. So we'll see if they actually force this fight.
It's going to be a thin line that they're going up against. Slept Team Wagers were actually the team that took down Avenger after the reboot. And you can kind of see they're not necessarily fighting for the points. That's bonus, but it's that mending machine over at Wonky Land. So you can either get the patch up or the actual med kits to extend your stay in the actual storm, which allows you to kind of miss out on this kind of chaotic portion of the game, which is why we see so many teams last season and this season stay as long as they have in the actual zone. Up until I think it's zone 5, it is going to be a 1 tick, then it goes to 2, and then it goes to a 5 tick. And Storm Surge doesn't really even give you the warning until 500 damage. And at 600 damage, that's when you actually start to take the sickness. So for the early portions of the game, Monster, it's a very viable strategy.
You have to appreciate the lengths of which pros find new ways every season, regardless of the loot pool changes, on how to extend their lives in the storm for longer and longer. The Creon in Dragon, we're doing the opposite of that. Early positioning here is going to play to their advantage. However, no Elins. So this is super important. They land these tags on teams moving by and might even have to overdrive their way into one. There's a minute-half warning now.
This is where this end game, I'm not going to say it's starting to scare me, but you can see the waterfall, mountain ranges, hills, dips, dives. So if you're not prepared for a possible end game that can go up and down, a lot of these mountains start to reserve, and think about your material count and resources overall. It could get chaotic, but you see 143 above for the Tick and Mafia. 143, it's above the damage threshold, so you know you're not going to take damage, but it's only zone 4, so that threshold is going to continue to increase. So for the Tick and Mafia, you just got to hope 143 is enough if you're not going to continue to get damage here.
Yeah, this can go either way, but it is not going to be enough to kind of go the distance. We'll see which of these guys ended up cracking first under pressure. Who really, amongst all these duos, needs the damage? They'll be the first to get lobby focused. Day and Scuffy's though on the move right now. I feel like they don't want to have anything to do with these two teams that are trailing behind them right now. Oh yeah, it's gross here. Just picked up his teammate. Oh no, Jesus is having a really hard time with this. He just got rebooted, all of them tagged up. Scuffy's lets his guard down, and that duo from behind insta knocks him right now. And there was, oh no, he was chilling in the bush there, Jacob.
Yeah, this is a dramatic turn of events for Day and Scuffy. They were above the damage threshold. They thought they could take advantage of the fresh reboot. Unfortunately enough, City is just hiding in that bush, gets good damage onto one, and now it's essentially going to be a fight for the reboot. Day versus City here, who's only 3 above the damage threshold, 57 above. So this is going to be one of those fights so where even if you win, you can find yourself below the damage threshold. First shot's going to go to City. Day fires back. He has a little bit of a lead over the control, but the third-party shots come in. The elimination goes to Day. Luckily, he's going to grant him that siphon to allow him to stay just a little bit longer in the storm because we know he needs the reboot.
Sometimes you need a little bit of luck, right? The storm getting the finish off, him getting the damage credit, the siphon kicks in. It just doesn't get better than that. And just like that, he might just be able to get that reboot back in here and now, but it could be risky too. Might just call for, of course, that dude to move in. Meanwhile, we're choosing Agers. Last time we was here, we obviously saw them just dumping the body up top in the box of Tabney, and they haven't quite left this spot here. They're 800 damage above the threshold, so things have seemingly gone very well for them.
Yeah, we're going to see them kind of use those splashes, get the HP. They have their mending machine that they try to use for a long time. And these tricks right here, they're using the overdrive, getting the effect from the actual shockwave grenade, and then they're shooting the blob, which launches them so far away. And while you see the benefits of Sandy Strip for a team like Ritual and Agers, but as soon as they make it in towards the zone, they become the chosen team. Multiple others start to fire off in this direction, but they make it in on the edge. The pressure slows down. So for now, they're going to be A-okay because they pulled zone as well.
zone landing right on top of them is perfect. And they'll be able to fish for eliminations. They already know there's all types of teams, not only, of course, in front of them, but the few that were behind them as well. So what a key position to be in. And I don't blame them for going straight into that metal box here. So it seems like everything is just starting to stack into their favor here now. And this is the type of spot they want to be in, too. They seem to have enjoyed the low ground coming out of game 1.
If you kind of look at it from the overhead, there are teams around them, but there's nobody that they immediately need to be worried about. Even though we haven't seen them build up and elevate their position, that's just because they're already in zone. We did see Day go down in the distance. Storm Surge, if you're not planning accordingly, it does start to dictate your game plan. You fall below, especially at a time like this. You almost have to fight the nearest team, and that's why you're seeing Curly Rise proactive. They already have their spot in zone, so they're just using their position here to try to get damage on any team shockwaving in.
They're just waiting for the Wagers team to open that box. Seems like they have a little sense that danger might be nearby, so not trying to move too soon. Looking around for tags. Oh no, I was gonna say someone that might be looking to take a fight, but not without the side duo here, so it's going to be a very rough spot to live for any single player, let alone a solo right now. Someone just got eliminated to the Storm Surge just right as all that's going down.
Yeah, it would have been a nice try for him to try to get the loot, but you're still below the damage threshold. Timing is just not on your side, and with no extra heals, 132, almost half of elimination here. Just hoping that somebody makes a mistake that he could try to beam, but now falling 300 below. He has to get in the box. Good damage onto one. Almost gets the knock onto JoJo, but it's not going to last. A few seconds. Storm Surge activates and he goes down. You got to give him the valiant effort for that one.
That was crazy, but talk about unfortunate for JoJo and Oxygen. Just the full wrap up too. That timing couldn't have been worse as the fresh metal edit comes through. They were changing layers. What was thing to happen? I'm back with Virgo and Shadow here. 300 damage above the threshold. No elims for this team, but Trouble in Paradise either. They're chopping their way through these enemy builds here, trying to see if there was any danger lurking nearby. They're trying to move their way into the storm here early now. Seem really safe here for a brief moment. The big edit. No shot though found in the follow-up. Meanwhile, Curly seems to be controlling a bit of that into high ground to be here. We'll see if they end up being the first team going up for the top. Ages and Rituals POV though. 3 elims right now. Again, another team that has had just quite the phenomenal performance here in game 2. Looking way better than what we saw them in game 1 endgame. I like this spot for them.
Got my wow, just seeing Preston get beamed right there, just kind of getting caught off guard. Now Blake as well going in for the loot. He is below the damage threshold, so maybe can kind of use a fight, but against Curly, against Rise, it may not be the duo I'd want to go against, especially now the third-party shots are coming in from behind. The dust has settled for this moment for Blake. He is above the damage threshold, but he is by himself as a solo in 26 place, or 26 teams, I should say, still up. So one more team needs to go down. Placement points will start to set in, with the meat of those placement points coming inside of the top 10.
Big tag right there. The finish as well. Great refresh there in this endgame here. And talk about that terrain, right? We saw a little bit of that dangerous terrain before, and this is coming up and over that vertical mountain lip there. So giving a bit of an extra problem to go ahead and deal with. And look at this, it's allowing a lot of teams to start positioning super high up now. So this is not looking like your traditional endgame. Almost like a zone war endgame, to be honest, off the layers here. Hobby in a minute, though, have full control of the situation. Calypso's going to go and get knocked there. They're thinking about possibly jumping in for the finish, for the refresh. No, they don't want to give it away. Here comes the choke point from both sides, both angles. Calypso does not get picked up and saved by his teammate. There goes the full finish. Close, but no cigar. Start looking up top. It's the Tickin' Mafia. They're getting a lot of showtime here today.
Yep, unfortunately, Mafia, no. I'm not sure what happened to him. Probably got chopped. I don't see any shield, so I don't think it was fall damage. We'll probably figure that one out later, but the Tick, there's no use complaining about it. He has to figure out what he's going to do here as a solo. Top 23, so many points left on the board. So if you're going to have a big game, it's on your shoulders as an individual. And you said it before in that last zone, nobody is really claiming that high ground just yet. Nobody is solidifying as the team to beat up above, but QK, Expo, they're trying to be the ones. They shockwave through the sky. They see nobody claiming it as their own. They said, you know what? We'll take it for ourselves.
I like what they do, getting immediately to the pressure here as well for the other teams on the mid layers. Exactly how you got to play it. You know what? I want to keep eyes on the tick as well. This is his time to shine here. That game one, like we talked about, there's a few teams that outperformed, right, as they're possibly making their first finals here up ahead. So for them to have a position and opportunity to winning clutch is going to be super important. But Ager's Ritual using that shockwave, not to rotate, but again to give themselves that unlimited stamina here for the rotate. Probably watching it play out there. Pizza coming into hand and going to be the HP heals they need, but it seems like they're going to be having to fight for a siphon here and now. Relating materials for Aegis and Rituals. There goes the edit there, Jacob, and the choke point comes through, and of course, leave it to Aegis to bind it.
Yeah, running dangerously low on material. They know if they're going to make it through the hard portion of this game, top 17 into the top 8 or even better, they're going to need resources. But now both of them missing a huge chunk of HP, all of their shields, but they're still fighting for it. Agers lands a big shot, unable to get the elimination yet. Aminish and Hobby are taking high ground while all this is going down. Agers can't seem to find his way back to Ritual. So now Ritual is going to be left by himself. Curly and Rise, they're getting near that same sort of situation because both of them might be out of builds.
Yeah, Curly and Rise were actually the disruptors to the high ground, and Minish and Hobby took full advantage of that distraction, and now they are up here with no problems. And look, Curly's not done yet. He finds an Elim. It was at the expense of Rise, but it's all good. He's got the pizza to stay alive in the game as well here and now. And it's almost a top 5 situation, so plenty of consistency coming out here for Curly now. Who's left in the game though? Noisy, Neo still here. Creon and Blake are still also kind of in the mix, but it is not looking good for them as Minish and Hobby have just so much going in their favor here.
Yeah, even Blake running around as a solo. Him and Curly, the only solos left in this lobby, but that's not going to slow him down. Even Ritual is trying to get into the mix. Aminish using so many of his heals with him and Hobby on the high ground. They have the luxury to do it. But we're going to jump on board Curly. 98 points. Him and Rise are starting to build that momentum. You see the win condition in the back pocket. Multiple chug-chugs. He went through the pizza. He's just trying to last long enough to get these points as Hobby and Aminish are dropping down. They know the time has come. Over towards Sandy's strip. They're trying to get these eliminations. They're trying to force everybody down low to clash as we get into the final 2v2.
This is it. Noisy and Neo, 9 elims, possibly pushing for 10 or 11 here and now, but this building is just buying them so much time now. You couldn't call a stronger endgame, a weirder endgame for both teams. And look, they both have mats as well, so this is going to go the distance. But if you're Minish and Hobby, this is not what you want at all, Jacob. They don't have heals to really go the further, but Noisy and Neo try to force the fight here up and over to the side. And Minish goes up just to get that visual from up top. Great tag so far, and this is really going any way right now.
Yeah, he does a pre-shockwave to make sure Noisy and Neo can't shockwave up. He has the mythic, so one pump is around any one of these corners, but Minish is making sure to keep his distance, letting Hobby drop down low, play the disruptor, but the elimination comes through. That siphon on him could be the difference. Could you see his HP going up? Neo with just a sliver left, and they have done it. Noisy and Neo have clutched up and stolen that game away from Rise and Curly.
You know, I'm not gonna lie, and Hobby and Minish, of course, being in the final stretch there, a good fight there, Jacob, as they went the distance. But who would have thought Neo and Noisy were gonna be the teams to go ahead and pull through and send themselves straight through the finals? Now, that's a huge win here in game number 2. Heat 1 already starting to give us some very interesting action. And Zeke, we still got the big boys in the lobby.
Bro, why are we coming down to these nail-biter games, man? I'm sitting there on the edge of my seat watching like, wait a minute, and Jacob's calling out this, and oh my gosh, and then boom, it goes the way of Noisy and Neo. For them, this is huge, right? Just think, we come into today, we have 5 games to try and make something happen, and you get a victory out in game number 2. I mean, Kelly, you gotta be like, all right, pressure's off, it's good, I'll see you guys in finals.
I mean, 100%. The pressure was definitely on for this duo, especially considering kind of how new they are as a duo. Noisy and Neo played that end game so well, so patiently. There was a moment there where I definitely thought it was going to be Hobby and Minish. They played the high ground really passively, but honestly, when you just have more than the other duo, Vivid, all you kind of have to do is just wait a little bit, wait for them to drop down, and that's exactly what Noisy and Neo did.
Yeah, they played that perfectly right. We saw those 2 eliminations kind of happen on the 2 solos of the lobby. So all those materials kind of fell right into their pocket, and something else falling right into their pocket. A ticket straight to the grand finals. And big news here, it's actually going to be the first time we see Neo in an FNCS grand final. So congratulations to him, and for Noisy, just the 4th time over there as well. So like Kelly mentioned, new players to the scene when it comes to these grand finals, but after watching that game right there, they look like vets.
Woo! I am excited. Now, of course, action is not over. We still have 3 games to go. First, really quick, in case you miss it, the Triple Threat Bundle is out in the item shop right now. Check it out. My gosh. Shout outs to Somerset, to Reddish, and to Moxie. But guys, this is such an amazing time. Again, I can't get over FNCS is back, baby. It feels so good to be back in the FNCS mindset, to see all the pros, to see the kind of tech and how people are adapting. I'm telling you, Kelly, everyone's thinking about that summit. It's in the back of the mind, isn't it? Global is that's far away. Summit, very soon.
It's really added a whole nother level of pressure onto all of our teams. We've never had something like this before. We've seen teams do well in like Major 1, or maybe they don't do well in Major 1 when they're like, oh, well, we still have the rest of the year to kind of prove ourselves, get our spot at the Global Championships. But everyone wants to go to this Major 1 summit. It's something completely new. And Vivid, I don't know about you, but I think a lot of these teams are probably putting in a little bit more effort to qualify this time around.
Definitely. All right. That's why we saw so many switches coming into this specific major. And you can just tell that it's an FNCS lobby. We've kicked things off just by how many players are alive in some of these early games, right? And how Storm Surge is just hurting everybody in the lobby.
3 games more, 3 more victory royales, or we hope to end in the top 10. First, a break. When we return for FNCS. See you in a bit. Welcome back, Fortnite fam. In case you missed it, game number 2 went over to Noisy and Neo, which means they're good. They're like, hey, we got to play no more FNCS. Now we can focus on next weekend, grand finals next weekend, and eventually that summit. But man, oh man, there's still 3 games left to go. If you don't know, we either want a victory royale or we want to end in the top 10, which means we will make a spot in the grand finals. Guys, we have 3 games left to go. We're almost halfway through, and there's still a lot of teams I feel like could have already gotten themselves a victory royale. I mean, if I'm looking at that leaderboard, I'm looking right at the top, Javi and Aminish, right? We've already seen 2 fantastic games from them. You know, if we just stop the competition right now, yeah, they go through in the top 10. That's all great, but I mean, I don't know, Kelly, 3rd place, 6 elims, 2nd place, 2. Like, I'm thinking we can see a VR pretty soon.
I mean, it's highly possible, but you know what? Javi and Aminish, they finished the play-ins in 1st place, so maybe that's just what they want. They really like that 1st place next to their name, so they don't want to get the auto-qual. They want to get 1st place through consistency. But regardless, what really impressed me about this duo right here was their push for height that they saw. What they did for this height push really impressed me. They waited for Curly to actually go for height first against QK and EXO, and then after Curly went up, that is when they went up, and allowing that kind of few second players to kind of third party for height is what allowed them to claim it for themselves. It ultimately didn't go the way that they wanted, but still, to see that height play, I can definitely see them going for it again in game 3, Vivid.
Yeah, something that impressed me was actually taking a look at how many eliminations they picked up that game. It was only 2, 1 each on both of them, and to kind of survive all the way to 2nd place is very tough to do in end games like that, right? Because you usually need the refreshes to kind of keep your game going, but they must have played a very good game when it came down to the rotates, because only 2 eliminations, picked up maybe even 2 refreshes there, and not only building up on the hype, but making it all the way to the end of the game. Super impressive stuff.
You're talking about eliminations. Look at Aegis and Ritual, right? 14 already. These guys are here to slay. And I think it's interesting that you bring that up, right, Vivid? Because on one side, we see, hey, we have a duo that's not really picking up impacts, right? They're not really finding these extra materials. Aegis and Ritual, though, they're getting active. They're looking for eliminations. They have mats, they have weapons, ammo, everything you could need. So, I mean, we could see a victory royale coming out of them, right, Viv?
Yeah, I mean, it would not be surprising to kind of see them win the game. I guess, you know, kind of coming into heat number 1, I would have actually bet that Ritual and Aegis would have been one of our first teams to win one of these early games right here. They're still playing very, very well, as you can see, based on the leaderboard right there, and obviously the eliminations that they're picking up as well. But yeah, I mean, they're just doing such a good job with those eliminations. They're at the top of the leaderboard when it comes to those specific eliminations, and they just got to keep the ball rolling.
You know, luckily, thanks to our Kench stats, we actually have the number for the finals VRs that they have coming out of the Div Cup finals. And they only have 2 victory royales out of the Div Cup finals that we've seen for this chapter. And Aegis and Ritual, although they are consistently in the top of our leaderboard, for me, it is more so the fact that they are just consistent. They don't necessarily need to go for the win, but they are just such a consistent duo, Zeke.
I love that. I love the consistency. And as well, in case you missed it on that leaderboard, 7th place, Curly and Rise, right? We kind of got eyes on them. I want to make sure we're keeping them close to see if they can make it through either consistency or on that victory royale, right? Because we do have some high expectations, but I'm feeling like they can maybe pull it through. Guys, we're getting ready to jump back in game number 3. VR or top 10? Let's get it. Casters, over to you.
Yeah, that's right. Things are definitely picking up here. And you know what? I was looking at Neo's Twitter there, and you know, it's his first time going to finals, so congrats for him. They seem to be very excited. As Noisy said, we are the best Mexican players out here. So I love to just see the celebrations, folks making their first finals. But this is just one more step, Jacob, for them going to land.
Yep, they just head and continue that same performance. Not going to be as easy in finals, but at least they got themselves an opportunity. But we go ahead and look at that leaderboard. The top 10 is where it's really going to matter after all the games are said and done, and those teams already advanced to the grand finals. So you look at Javi and Minish, you look at Aegis, Ritual, even Shadow and Virgo. They're so high up on the leaderboard, they just need to do the bare minimum to secure that spot. It's the other teams that I might begin to get worried about.
Yeah, if you're already breaking that 100-point threshold, you're pretty much a shoo-in. Seems like you're on pace to make your top 10. And, you know, it's a short day today. 5 games, that's it. 2 already out, of course, as we only have 3 more left, of course, with this one in front of us. So, with the battle bus ringing out, Jacob, let's go ahead and go on them one more time.
This is essentially the halfway point throughout today's tournament. As Monster said, 5 games instead of the usual 6. So if you find yourself running out of time, that could be why. And you kind of look at the leaderboard. I talked about Javi, Ager, Shadow, even our analysts talked about it. But as you continue to go down the leaderboard, you see how tight of a race it actually is. If you think top 15 after the 5 teams qualify, right now it's only 57 points. Only 1 point kind of separates a couple of these teams. And back to this fight, straight 50-50. They go for the chest down below. Nut and Prom seem to have this one on lock.
And when you get that elim this fast, right, you're beating them to the drop, you're finding that, you know, weapon first essentially and getting the full elim. I mean, it just doesn't get better than that because you're getting your points, you're getting quick damage, and then you get the whole drop. There's just no wasted resource, so it doesn't get more min-max than that. So you jump with Blake and Preston. Just highlighted the fact that the speed of the last elimination. Last time we saw Pluzzy and crew here, Pluzzy was by himself and he missed that shot in game 2. We called him out for it, so you can't make those mistakes when you have that one-on-one opening up. So we'll see what Kin and Pluzzy can do here if they've actually learned a little bit from their last game 2 loss.
Yeah, and Blake and Preston, even though they've had a little bit of struggles without their game, they're only 13 points away from that bubble spot and to get into the finals from a contested drop, which is impressive in its own. As we take Mafia, they get their 2 eliminations at Humble Hills, so they get the rest of that drop and time here early on to loot up and try to get the rest of what they fought for. Preston goes to try to make a play, lands the first shot. Pluzzy, he's trying to struggle his way back to the other side, but that could be an opportunity to Blake to try to get the sandwich.
Definitely nicely done for him to go to make the exit there. Oh, quick dash and counter fire as well. Looking good, but Blake's a little bit more shield to work with now, but no, he couldn't push back fast enough and allow Preston to go ahead and play the side angle there. Well, this is going to be too much wraps here for Pluzzy. One more time now. Blake and Preston continuing to flex as the stronger duo at the moment. We're rewarded with the full drop, the northern zone pull as well. No rush for them.
What a time to kind of win this one. They get that legendary drop. You can kind of see the POI. It grants a increased chance at getting those rare chests and more gold. So what a perfect game to try to win this one in. They got a lot of time to loot up over towards Latte Landing. Same here on this side of the map. Sandy Strip with Agers and Ritual. We kind of know how their early game goes. As they're uncontested, they just try to farm up. They loot. They pick the perfect loadout. From there, depending on where the zone goes, they do like to push the eastern side of the map, whether they use the blob or just straight shockwave grenades. That's how most times they pick up their eliminations or damage.
And they do clearly an excellent job at it. 7 Ultra cores. The first time we're seeing them in the early game here, taking their battles. It's against Liam and Press. In a toe-to-toe fight here. Press trying to work his way around. Seems like his teammate might have dashed out. The roll while you're down action here. Looking for the body.
Yeah, just seeing them kind of jump away. We know he's knocked. We kind of see it in the mini-map. They're not that close to it, so they're going to be searching quite a while if they look for that one. Could give him an opportunity to get the reboot, but you can also see in the mini-map, he disengaged on out, right? He's over here thinking, my teammate, there's no way I can get the reboot. There's no way he's going to be able to roll on to me. So he's continuing the rest of his game, trying to collect that gold, just in case he has to purchase it to get his teammate back.
I think he's going to be able to get him, though. Not going to lie. They seem to have straight lost him there at the end. Meanwhile, Day and Scuffy. So last time we saw them here, they let their guard down with the open wall from behind. And I have a feeling they're doing it again here as we see on the map there. There is a team in the storm. Okay, they know there's a team in the water. All right, cool. Last time, Scuffy's got laced up real quick. It was all up to Day there.
And at that time, too, it's just so late in the game with every other team hearing the reboot that caught their attention as well. So it's just unfortunate for Day and all that timing. But Rise, Curly, back on over towards Painted Palms. And honestly, it's been an impressive tournament so far. Even though it's not necessarily on the leaderboard, Rise has the second most damage in the entire lobby so far, only beaten by Neo. So you know, if it continues in the trend, he might be able to be the #1 player in this lobby. Shadow, Virgo. Virgo is going to be #2 on that list of players still playing this lobby in total damage. And I'm not too surprised. 250 eliminations in play-in. You kind of see they slow down their game plan for Heats, kind of being diverse in their strategy. They can get eliminations, they can play aggressive, or they can just kind of play to placement. Comco collected game plan, hope everybody else makes mistakes.
Yeah, I always said Shadow and Virgo were extremely talented, you know, hyping up Shadow's capabilities. Haven't seen it firsthand. Now you get to see them put their brain to use, right? Treating this like a finals lobby. These set lobbies always bring such a different dynamic, so you have to be flexible. For some, though, this is their first time, right? Like making it this far in the tournament life cycle. So, 4-7 Ultra in that conversation here. Choked out, though. There's 2 duos on either side of them. I'm just gonna have to pick their poison here shortly. Yora seems to be a solo. Low down there. Let's just play far from this duo, actually. Whoa. Look at this.
Tune in. Ager's Ritual. Or at least Ager's get dropped down to just a sliver of HP. Splash is coming out. Minis as well. They know they have time here because they have their mending machine down below, more than likely boxed up. The position here, they can shoot the blob and kind of create so much distance in the blink of an eye. So they have plenty of options now that they survived that fight from Boogie and Cash. Not sure how they were able to get that damage, but heads up for Aegis and Ritual to be able to survive that.
Yeah, you see, you have to have that effect on as well in the Shockwave to, of course, get that distance. Yeah. But Blake and Preston, though, back on over to Listen and Aloe for a base down here. We already knew Blake and Preston took that fight here at the Latte Landing, so for Listen and Aloe to just rotate into their drop. Surprised they didn't even catch Blake and Preston out.
I can kind of see what they're looking at here. I don't see Curly anywhere. I see Rise trying to run. It seems like maybe they got the elimination on Curly. Aloe Listen chasing down Rise, and yes, no knock, so that is going to be a full wipe. Complimenting how well Rise was playing with his damage. I'm not going to take blame for that, Curse, but they are going to go down, and that's going to be a little bit more of a struggle for them. They're 7th place on the overall leaderboard, so they have a little bit of a cushion, but that means no more mistakes for the rest of the day.
Yeah, you know, all things considering, you would have thought Curly and Rise were a little bit, I guess, more comfortable on the standings, you know, leaning into Game 3, but they're still in the conversation. This is surely going to put them back. Right now, the pressure's on for consistency. I didn't think I'd be saying that today, as that was a team